server is part of Digital Davos, which means we can use it afterwards. And we'll just superimpose 18,000 people at the back.
Yeah, everything will done in Photoshop.
Yeah, just Photoshop.
Okay, say when you're ready. Okay, Mark, thank you very much for coming.
Pleasure.
Nice to have you.
Well, thank you for inviting us. So, hello everybody. So my name is Mark Terrell, and today we're going to be talking about education, the future of education, particularly in the context of the future of work. I will introduce myself briefly, and I'd like people around here, the panel, to introduce themselves. Also be interesting to get sort of how it would And then I have a few interesting questions. We have provocative questions on what is genuinely the future of education. But if I start off, if you introduce yourself, your name, your organisation, and what you're doing in the education space.
Sure. Thank you for having us. So my name is Pierre. I'm one of the two co-founders and the CEO of Open Classrooms, which is a mission-driven company. We started in Paris 6 years ago, and the mission is to make education accessible, and especially professional education, so education linked to jobs. So we became a fully endorsed college, and that is fully online. We trained 3 million students on 50 different jobs, from code, AI, cyber, digital marketing, to sales, management, finance. We work with 500 employers to upscale and rescale their workforce and try to basically fix the skills gap and address the talent shortage they face on those jobs. We're a company of 200 employees. We raised $70 million, and we're based in Paris, London, New York.
Excellent. So really good. And was it originally from Paris, or originally US?
It was actually. It started 20 years ago as a personal project. So my friend and I started in middle school when we were like 11 and 13. We were interested in creating websites and couldn't find courses, so we created the first course and published it online for free, shared it to friends, and then we built this online learning community for many, many years, started to studies like middle school, high school, college, and it became the reference platform to learn how to code in French-speaking countries. So pretty much like every software engineer or developer in French-speaking countries learn one way or the other through Open Classroom. So this is how we got started, and at the end of our studies, we turned that into a startup company, full-time job.
Excellent. Really, really good. Very interesting. The next guest.
Yes, so my name is Elma. I work with a company called Area 9 Lyceum. What we do is adaptive learning technologies. It's AI and science-based learning technologies that adapts to each and every person, making people learn approximately 50% more efficiently, because the software figures out what you know, it skips that part, teaches you what you don't know, and covers also and corrects something called unconscious incompetence, meaning you think you know something that you don't, or you don't know what you don't know. And it also makes sure to provide for knowledge retention, because we do tend to forget the knowledge. So all is based on science, and the company has been developed in the last 20 years. We have had around 20 million users through. And we can say that not even one learns in the same way, which is why we believe that future of learning is personalization. We need to be able to meet learners exactly where they are, what do they know, their background experience, and then build on what don't they know.
And is this then only online, or is there an integration into offline as well?
This is online, yes, and then but we do encourage blended learning, so you have the knowledge and theory and cognitive part, but then as an educator and facilitator, you get all the analytics behind. You can actually see on each and every person what they struggle with, and then focus your classroom training on those exact points, and not try to guess or guesstimate about what people are struggling with. So in that case, we actually encourage blended learning a lot as well.
Really, really good. I'll introduce myself later. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me. My name is So-Yan Kang. I'm the founder and CEO of Novi. Novi stands for Grow Knowledge into Being, because it's actually about turning and moving beyond knowledge and turning them into application. Because once you apply knowledge, then it becomes true skills and learning. We are a mobile micro-learning solution, and so we power and create mobile content authoring in order to deliver content in bite-sized ways that actually are based on adult learning and science. So we're very much based on adult learning theory, which is about interaction, participation and about social learning. So our philosophy, we call MPPG, is mobile first, which is about accessibility. There are 5 billion people around the world who have access to this mobile phone.
That one? Or,
from the way mine looks, it kind of looks like
actually, with the Russian plumber story in Davos this year, right?
it could be more than the number of people who have access to clean water, and so and then participation, personalized, and group-based learning. So I think the idea of learning, especially in futures, it's all about skills. Skills is a new currency, and digital learning does not equal videos. So I think there's an opportunity to move. So we do a lot of blended learning, where we are the digital action kind of guide that goes along, blended, pre, during, and post, standalone as well. We are partnering with, we have users around 44 countries, and we're partnering with corporations as well as academic institutions, and they actually create content or for internal use or resell it. So we launched the world's first content library designed for mobile learning, called Novi Learn, and it's literally the first and the largest, and it's shocking to me that it didn't exist before. It's one of those things where you assume it exists, but when you think about it, it doesn't. And then we also just patented, we filed a patent for mobile authoring, so now anyone, even your children, could create their own courses from their phone. So it's really about user-generated content and democratizing, not just learning, but democratizing teaching. And this philosophy that it's not just one that holds all the information, but it's a shared knowledge economy.
And already, just having gone through 3 of these introductions, this is definitely the radical end of the teaching spectrum. Which I'm going to have a lot of questions about afterwards. But so yeah, Christian, thank you very much. Christian.
Thank you so much, Mark, and thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Christian Busch. I'm at the Center for Global Affairs at New York University. I'm a professor there, and I'm leading the Global Economy program, where we look into how do we integrate profit and purpose, how do we essentially rethink capitalism into a more inclusive model. And so what we do a lot is essentially saying, look, if we want to tackle global challenges in the world, it's all about connecting the dots. It's not enough anymore to just kind of like, study business or study this, but essentially to say, okay, we have a program in global economy, but we also have one in cybersecurity, we have one in international relations, human rights, and then these students are across these programs, and then essentially what we do with them, they're in global field intensives, so they go co-create a school in Iraq, are really on the ground and not this kind of 2-day stuff, but like really being there and feeling what it means to be there and what it means to have that pressure in that kind of environment. So to really kind of have experiential learning, but also doing at the same time. Then we do a lot of simulations with the UN and others around how do you essentially, when you are in context, if we can't bring them into the context, how can we at NYU directly, like a UN Security Council meeting, like how does it play out if you are part of it, and then we play that out with them. So we do a lot of these kind of things that are quite applied. We have a couple of courses around, for example, purpose-driven business, impact investing, the kind of courses that we believe are interesting for the future. But most importantly, I think, to me, this is all about how do we develop mindsets of people that are really able to go out there and cope with uncertainty and the unexpected. Because, none of us has an idea how jobs in 10 years will look like, right? Like everyone who tells us they know, it's hard to take serious, but like in a way, like if we don't know how the job will look like, if we don't know how exactly the skill set looks like, but what we can work on is the mindset that you're always ready for whatever comes your way and make the best out of it. And that's why I'm so excited, and hopefully we'll get some time to talk about it, that those people that we've studied, that are the most successful, the most joyful people, both in Sub-Saharan Africa, extreme low-income context, to the CEOs of MasterCard, they intuitively cultivate serendipity. Intuitively, they set themselves up for the unexpected and then make positive coincidences happen all the time. And people are always like, oh my God, this person's lucky. No, they worked really hard for it. And also they somehow created a culture, and they created courses and other things that set people up for it. And so that's what I'm super excited about. By the way, also before I forget it, we're about to launch a podcast about global challenges in February. So I was asked by our publicist to plug that in, so just plug it in.
Are you leaving now? Like I've done my bit.
Thank you. But it's all about global challenges. We have Nick Kristof on there, the Pulitzer Prize winner. We have board members of MasterCard about the financial inclusion. All these amazing people talk about how do we tackle global challenges.
Do you have a T-shirt on?
Wait, one sec.
Or a QR code that they can scan?
Exactly, a couple of flyers as well.
Very good, thank you very much. Adrian, you also...
Hello, my name is Adrian Namsu. I was working in financial services business for 20 years now. The driver for being here is basically one side is private, since I have to take care of 2 kids who are growing up and preparing them for jobs that doesn't exist currently. your topic as before. And then the second one is I was approached by a startup during a hackathon, Atlas, called Atlas.work. It's basically a freelancing platform which runs on smart contracts, basically payment in cryptocurrencies. Our own cryptocurrency called Work, and enabling for 0% commission on that. And of course for other cryptocurrencies, which are basically another scheme. That's the reason for being here.
Well, and so in that, if I because I mentioned at the moment, you're actually not Mark. So my background, I'm a professor at Holt's International Business School. So I teach a course on strategy, and it's really persuasion, spread, and scaling. So it's executive type education. My grandmother was a teacher. My mother had 3 kindergarten. So teaching has been there, and when I was doing my PhD, I was also teaching. I have a 25-year plan to change the entire world for the better, all of it at the same time, ideally without anybody knowing that it's me. I'm currently in year 12 of the plan. The plan's birthday is actually Davos week, because that was when I started. And one of the things that I already worked out when I began the plan is that education will be absolutely fundamental, particularly if done well at scale. I began a couple of years ago when I have 2 sons. My eldest son is 15, my youngest son is 13. And I was trying to work out that as a good father, what can you give your kids that they can't get from school and maybe YouTube? What I then decided is that the World Economic Forum just produced a report on the future of jobs. And what was shocking to me is that if you look at the list of skills that people should have, so it's critical thinking, complex problem solving, creativity, I realized that I wasn't taught a single one of those skills at school, university in 3 different countries. This is insane. So I then decided to write an explicit curriculum on critical thinking for my younger son. He very quickly became really, really good at it. Now, genetics would probably help, but I mean, the teaching method is good. So now what I'm doing now with my new business, which I'm calling Transfer Marketing, my goal is to transform people and change their behavior. I don't really care about teaching. But my goal is that all of these soft skills, 21st century skills, how can we teach them explicitly so that you can become good to expert in a few hours to a few weeks, online and offline. And my business then is writing the curriculum. So most of you got platforms. I'm a creator. And then working out how to teach teachers how to teach as well. That's one. And in fact, I just came in this morning, so I was just teaching in the local Davos school, where I had 33 kids. Hey, welcome. Yeah, come on, dude. Where I had 33 kids, and we taught them a course on Think Different, Be Better. And we covered also sustainability and small business, and a really cool brand new 2-hour course that I've licensed to the Davos school system. It's my gift to the community. Questions. So, do you think we need to step back and say, do we need to change education, or do you think it's so obvious that we don't need to discuss it?
It's too obvious.
Too obvious? That's good.
One reason for being so obvious, in my opinion, is I saw basically school systems, different countries. In my opinion, they are very capsulated, because they, compared to the company where people from different industries come in and out, for consultant to whatever industry, this is a closed ecosystems where people are raised as teachers to be very provocative on this. I exaggerate a little bit. And then doesn't have that much interaction with the rest of the world. That's why it's not much innovation going on, shall we say. What I was taught in school of analyzing text, poetry, and so on, I see my kids are doing now still the same, despite the fact that the world has changed so much in eventually a different direction. This is amazing me somehow.
So one of the things is that many of you have got systems or platforms that are going online. How do you integrate with existing education systems? Because I mean, after all, there's a glorious future, but then we have today. So how do you integrate with today's education systems?
Yeah, I can start with that. So basically, we have a fairly collaborative approach through partnerships with colleges and universities. So for example, next week we're going to launch a master's program with Stanford on digital transformation, on leadership, strategy, management, but on a platform, co-built and jointly designed where Stanford faculty and the institution itself with our own methodology and our own pedagogy that is competency-based, project-driven, with mentorship, fully online, etc., etc. It's kind of tricky in the sense that, as you said, higher education institutions usually are in a huge status quo, so it's pretty hard to make those changes. But on the other hand, when you look at the job market, you might think that you don't need degrees anymore, and it's obsolete, and you need skills, and you'll find a good job if you have like AI and data and digital skills. Truth is, most jobs still require a degree. You can be upset about it, but that's just the reality. So you need to try to work with employers so they change their mindsets. But that's going to take a bit of time. So what do you do in the meantime? And right now, a degree is still kind of a gateway to get a job, a gateway to get also funding for your education in many countries, including in the US through like Pell Grants and whatnot. So we believe that you need to create a fairly innovative system and then try to adapt your product, adapt your platform, adapt your service so it fits and aligns with the existing system, and you need also to change the existing system, and it's kind of a two-way street. So it's very tricky, and we when we started in France like 6-7 years ago, free online degrees were actually forbidden by law. It sounds crazy.
Would you go to jail, or is it like a civil penalty?
You could go to jail, actually. Like, if you offer...
It's like running an Davos conference and not the WEF. Like,
yeah. So, you need to create a very strong product to make sure that you build a trustworthy relationship with the authorities and accreditation bodies and all the ecosystem, but also you need to have an impact on regulation and the existing authorities and universities and etc. So we build programs in partnership with existing universities. We talked a lot to policymakers, accreditation bodies, so we can help to make the law evolve basically. And then it worked out, but it takes a long time, I can tell you that.
Because I guess we're a little bit further down. So, and partially because I totally agree with Pierre on all the challenges with universities and the traditional universities. Maybe not like NYU because maybe you're so innovative, but in traditional. So we do work in executive education and the adult learning space. And with the adult learning space, I do think it's evolved beyond the degrees anymore because you're working full time and you don't have time to go get a full-time degree or a part-time degree. And you have, after work, 5 to 7 p.m., go sit in a classroom 4 days a week, falling asleep, have the time to get your part-time degree. So what we're actually doing is a lot of skills badging, and I do see that that's going to be one of the big, because I think credentialing is actually important. So this idea that there's just a mass proliferation of content that no one knows what is really quality or not. So this idea of accreditation by expert bodies. We also work with, in Singapore, with Skills Future Singapore and the different government bodies. We're currently working with the Institute of HR Professionals, the Institute of Banking and Finance. And so as you work with the different industry bodies, with the nursing board, so there's different industry verticals, and they will accredit the courses. We even work with the real estate agency actually. And so whether it's real estate, whatever the job scope is, each one will have a body that is the expert body. And then they will accredit the skills. So with these skills badges that are meant to either upskill, get you promoted, get you jobs, and then, like you said, we then work with the employer to recognize and say, you know what, there's lots of stuff out there, but these skills badges are accredited and they have the stamp of approval. So I do think that there is, we're in a transitionary period, I would say, in terms of this whole this understanding and acceptance of digital, and then what is the use of digital? Is it all? I think now we're going to blend it. It was like all face-to-face and all digital, and now we're kind of figuring out how we transition in terms of new methods, new ways of doing things more effectively. So there is pressure, I think, coming from the marketplace and also from the millennials around new norms and ways of working. So I'm hopeful because I'm seeing a lot more demand from the business community on these things. That's primarily where we operate. So we come from the business and then we go into the university. So we'll say this client, this large multi-billion-dollar conglomerate would like these 10 skills. University, would you like to create that content? and it's remarkable how willing they are to create that content.
Absolutely.
But it has to be created in experiential ways, so they have to use our andragogy. So we're in the andragogical space, not pedagogy, because we're adult learning. So in the andragogy, we use andragogy for, it's just for those who don't know, andragogy is the science of adult learning. Pedagogy is the science of children, how children learn.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so people always talk about pedagogy. People often talk about pedagogical principles for adult learning, which is not scientifically accurate, because andragogy, adults learn differently. For example, adults need context for learning, where children don't really need context, because they don't have a lot of experiences to draw from.
Well, you can.
A little bit, but not as much. But not as much as
All
adults.
different types, yes.
Because in adults, if you don't start with the why and the big context, we can't place information. So you talk at us and we're like, what? We know we need to place it in our field of experience.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so
Fascinating.
so there's pedagogy, andragogy, there's jawaragogy. Yeah, of how elderly learn, and then there's humanagogy, which actually cuts across all. So there's a Venn diagram of common ways that all humans like to learn. Like fun is common, it's humanagogical. So actually so adults like to, so humans like to have fun and laugh when they learn.
I'm very glad we're having this panel in the middle of the day, because I'm sure if you'd had 3 or 4 drinks in this at night, we can do good to audio.
Yeah. So I think it's important when we're talking about adult learning to apply andragogical and humanagogical principles. Yeah.
Well, and so with your AI approach that you've done, what has been your experience of putting this thing into practice? Is it that everybody then immediately says it's brilliant, or do you have to fight?
With the adaptive learning, so the thing is that it simulates tutoring, one-on-one tutoring, and people are not used to the content. It's question-based, right? So it starts out with a question, to figure out what you know, what you don't know. And people are like, oh no, I'm being questioned. They see it as a test, and it's not a test. It's to figure out what you know and how confident you are. So the first, like, oh no, this is a test, right? But then later they figure out that everybody, and we have so many users and platforms. It's very engaging and interactive, because you actually have to participate. You have to answer. You have to also both answer on a probe. We are probing for knowledge in different ways, and also you have to say your level of confidence, meaning that you have to reflect. So that meta learning, which we also need for 21st century learner, they need to self-reflection on how you learn. You actually get points for grit as well, resistance, which is one of the characters. We need to build character as well. So it's different. It's actually not easy, because learning is also not supposed to be easy. However, it triggers you. I found myself actually like, really seriously, you come back with this, it triggers you, but you learn. So everybody is more motivated and more engaged, because it actually captures what you don't know, and when you find out things you thought you knew and you don't, you get like, okay, I did not know this, then you're also more prone to learning. When you find out that there was actually a misconception. So in the beginning, it's very different, but once you start, you really get used to it, and you get to say, you actually learn, because it also measures proficiency, not completion. So we don't believe in pass or fail. We believe that everybody can get there, provided they get the help they need, which the system allows for. So we have cases where people finish in 15 minutes and others take 3 hours. And it's not because they're bad people, they just need more context, more information. So it's either incomplete or 100% proficient. There's nothing pass or fail or wrong. And you get there.
And one of the
Mark,
things-
sorry, I cut myself out. Don't worry. We have 2 minutes left, and this is not because of 2 minutes, it's because of capacity on the memory chip. Okay.
So we can wrap it up?
Yes.
So a few final thoughts on, are you positive or negative about the future of, like, can we change the education systems of the world? Can we actually change education in the next 5 years?
Extremely positive, because at the end of the day, if you think about what's happening at the moment, right? There's a critical mass of people who feel there's a lot of uncertainty out there. There's a critical mass of people who see the global challenges. So I think that kind of capacity to go with it. Very optimistic about
Cool.
it. Yeah.
Optimistic because they have the information, but you have to feed it up basically with good mentorship.
What do you think?
Yeah, extremely optimistic as well. I think there are so many people working on that problem right now, and governments, employers, institutions, universities are all on that right now, and we see the first results. So very optimistic.
optimistic, provided that we do rethink the education and use the technology for scalability, because that's the only way we can actually manage to rescale or reskill or upskill 20 billion people by 2030 using technology. So if we do that,
We're not going to be 20 billion people by 2030.
no, sorry, 20, 20 million.
So somebody's not using birth control. But yes, it's like
But
a decent number.
if we actually do utilize technology and rethink the education.
And you, Sue?
I'm realistically optimistic. So I'm optimistic about the opportunities, and I think we've been on a journey already towards that transformation. And what will be really exciting is to show that the early pioneers and the early adopters will, I think, lead the way. And so I think when you start to get that happening, I think 5 years, that's realistic. And then when that happens, then you get the transformation of a larger part of society. So I'm excited about that.
I think, and from my perspective, I am excited. I think it's tricky about how we will adapt to these systems. I think we need to be very, very flexible. It's too easy as a producer to say it has to be this way. But I think if we are flexible, I think also if we work together on this as well, the need is there, the solutions are there, and to be honest, we all need to get started on it. So I'd like to say thank you very much. Thank you very much for joining. And I think to connect with us all, hopefully, sort of to find out what all of our companies are doing. And thank you very much for watching.
Thank you very much.